Okay, hold on to your hats. James Creedon's here. We're going to talk about the Oscars. We're going to talk about the artist. We're going to talk about Jean Dujardin and all that crew who won their 5 Academy Awards. And
pretty impressive.
people are getting jealous. And you were telling me French bashing is returning.
Right, French bashing is returning. Now, I'll get to that in 1 second, right?
Okay.
But first of all, another thing that the media's been talking about in France, the PR behind the success of the artist. Now, I think
Are we saying it's all manipulation? Surely not.
Well, certainly there was, I suppose, an effort that went into the success. Let's have a look here at Jean Dujardin, star of the film, appearing on several American talk shows, showing his success as a mime artist. Here he's doing an impression of Robert De Niro and that sort of famous tough man face. There was a lot of effort put into that. You have Harvey Weinstein as well, who is the promoter of the film, the producer, bought the rights to it in the US, and he has done a massive job at promoting it in the US. And since the Cannes Film Festival, when it got a lot of plaudits, I suppose, in May of last year, there's been a very consistent effort to boost it in Hollywood, especially because it's talking about Hollywood. It's about the beginnings of Hollywood.
Okay, or are we saying that that's the wrong thing to do?
Perfectly all right, I
Are we
suppose,
saying it's unfair? Because if your PR machine's bigger than someone else's, that gives your film more chances, even though your film's not as good, perhaps?
Well, Harvey Weinstein said it had a 1 in a million chance of kind of getting the success it got at the Oscars. So I suppose it shows to some extent that, it's about the machine behind the movie as well.
It is, but then again, the artist, the movie that beat the system.
Right.
Bravo!
But it spoke a bit about the system too, and they liked that. Okay. Now, the other thing, French bashing.
Le bashing des Français.
Right. This is in Slate.fr. The success of the artist wakes up, réveille le French bashing.
Le French bashing.
Right.
This means bashing the French.
Bashing the French. They're well translated. They're a bit sensitive about that. And they point out that a lot of people, including people involved in The Descendants, that was George Clooney's big flick, which was one of the competing movies. Here's the screenplay writer of that. The artist people were in line in front of me, and now I smell like cigarettes and entitlement.
What does that mean then?
I think that the French
Come on, what are they saying?
The French smoke too much, the French have a sense of arrogance and entitlement, and now it's rubbed off on me. I think that's what she was more or less trying to say.
Okay. And who is Ms. Hemmings when she's at home?
Miss Hemmings, she was involved with The Descendants.
Okay,
now, she's
good for her.
She's not the only one. Let's have a look at what other
people
She knows
about going home empty-handed.
Oops. Right. You see, that's the same tactics as she was involved in now. You can't be doing that. Now, let's show you a few other tweets. People saying it's a silent movie, and hold on, for once the French win when they shut up. Now, a number of people have been saying that.
That's quite funny.
That is kind of funny. It is kind of funny. And I suppose we know it's not true because they've also won when they're talking and when they're singing. And Marion Cotillard a few years ago for the Edith Piaf film La Vie en Rose, or Le Môme as it was known in France, she won, so she spoke and sang. It wasn't just silent stuff. But some people taking the opportunity to give a little dig to the French and just say, you won, but you weren't talking, which is kind of convenient.
Okay, now, in Britain, they got rid of the News of the World over the phone hacking scandal. We're talking newspapers now. But this weekend, a new paper was launched by the same stable that had the News of the World. It's called the Sunday Sun.
That's right. And
can we see a difference between the two titles?
Not really. And indeed, the copyright for the Sun on Sunday was lodged around the same time as the News of the World was made defunct. And this is all because it was a phone hacking scandal last year at, in the News International business, and they were trying to kind of put out the fire, basically. And now, the day after the launch of the Sun on Sunday, which is the successor to the News of the World, big revelations at a parliamentary inquiry called the Leveson Inquiry. Basically, it turns out that Rebecca Brooks and Andy Coulson, two very senior people in News International, one a former aide to David Cameron, were warned as early as 2006 that phone hacking was going on in the company. Now, they've consistently denied that senior management was aware of the extent of phone hacking. Now, an email has come through which is essentially evidence that there was knowledge at the very top of News International about this phone hacking. Not alone that, more details came out about illegal behaviour by journalists, a culture of illegal payments, bribing public officials. This is a whole other scandal that is affecting News International, and more details were given as regards that to this parliamentary inquiry today. Now, what does all this mean? Basically, Murdoch is very worried about the scandal spreading to the US, where he's much bigger, business interests. Fox News, he's got the Wall Street Journal, etc., etc. There is a piece of legislation in the US called, if I could find it, basically it's an act whereby if you've been involved, the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Now, with all of these revelations that are coming out in Britain, his companies in the US could be liable for fines of hundreds of millions of dollars if there is a sort of proof that overseas operations have been involved in trickery of this sort. So Murdoch is getting kind of worried. And some are saying, could the Sun on Sunday last many more Sundays? Maybe not.
OK, James Creedon. There we go. James Creedon with Media Watch.